play. Guess who? Body up the middle, making another move to the outside. 15, 10, end zone again.
Keeps it. Nice move by Brown. He's got space. He's got 6. 35-yard touchdown for Byron Brown. A record-setting night for the South Florida quarterback.
Down so far, a little bit of a high snap. Genty right up the middle. Genty has room. Ashton Genty, give him 6.
Second and long. Lagar tries to fit it in. Runnels, it does. Runnels stays up. The Suns offense 4-3 wins. Incredible effort for Runnels.
The G5 Hive. All G5, all the time.
Welcome to the G5 Hive Live. We're excited to bring you the G5 college football coverage you love each and every week. I am Luke, and I'm joined by my co-host, Justice. It's only taken all year long, but I've kind of figured out the finger pointing. I got it. We are only 3 subscribers away from 500 on YouTube, so wherever you are watching or listening to us, we would greatly appreciate you heading over to YouTube and hitting that subscribe button. The G5 Hive merchandise stores is now live. Link in the YouTube comments, as well as pinned to our X page in the bottom of the screen here. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button like I mentioned earlier. And if you're watching us on X, please give us a follow, a like, and a retweet. And if you're listening to us in podcast form, please rate and review. 5 stars only. We don't want anything less than a 5-star. Just like everything that we give you each and every week, 5 stars, nothing less. What's up, Justice?
What's going on, man? It's I don't know, it's kind of sad. Like the college football season's coming to an end. The transfer portal is in full swing. It officially opened today, and it's been kind of nuts. It's been really nuts. I mean, in particular, I would say Marshall has gotten hit really hard. I don't really know about their quarterback situation. The 3 quarterbacks I know on the roster all entered the portal, and so I wonder if it could be a situation like where Minnesota had last year, where I think they paid $20,000 to one of the quarterbacks just to play in the bowl game because they didn't have a quarterback.
And we'll see if that's going to play into them being able to play in the bowls. We'll talk about some of the bowl games later tonight, but it's my understanding with one of the teams, they've got players in the transfer portal, actually quite a few of them, but it sounds like the school is allowing them to play the choose.
It's a team-by-team basis. I saw where some Sam Houston accounts said all the Sam Houston guys in the portal were planning on playing, or we're going to be allowed to play. Maybe that's a better way to say it.
Yeah.
Because the school can allow it, and I guess it's up to the player whether they want to play or not. But, I know firsthand some schools don't allow it. Old Dominion is one of those schools. They're not in a bowl game, so you can't worry about that. But I know last year in our bowl game against Western Kentucky, Old Dominion did not allow anyone in the transfer portal to play in the game, and obviously Western Kentucky did because Caden Veltkamp was in the portal at that point. I believe there's all 5 starting offensive linemen were in the portal. So the Western Kentucky did allow their guys to play in the portal. It's a team by team basis. And I think sometimes maybe the team might want to say no, but they can't because they don't have enough players. I'm just thinking about the Marshall situation. They've lost a lot today. I don't think they've lost enough where they can't play and they don't have enough to play. Quarterback, I guess, would be the one position. But like Western Kentucky last year, you lose your starting offensive lineman, then maybe you don't have the depth after that. Or I'm sure you can produce a starting lineup, but then you probably have no backups, no reserves. Just interesting times. I mean, and I don't know what the NCAA could do about it because they can't change the timing of the portal because these kids want an opportunity to be somewhere in the spring, right? And that means they got to be enrolled in January. So, yeah, I don't really know what the answer is. I don't see it changing. I mean, folks say, well, they should just get rid of the bowl games. Yeah, that's never going to happen. The bowl games are about money. and it's not necessarily about the product on the field per se. And I don't see that changing anytime soon.
The thing that's been interesting in this whole thing is like you said, the sheer. I think as of yesterday, maybe it was today, there's like over 600 players total in the portal. And like you said, like that's today's like when the portal actually opened. Almost think it's easier to like, hey, if you're gonna stay put, can you tweet that out?
Well, some players are.
I was like, I'm just gonna assume that everyone's going to the portal. Honestly, when you look at it from a business aspect of it, if they're positioned to go out there the most, you're looking at your like interior defensive linemen, some linemen, and then your quarterback. Like if I'm in college and I play quarterback or I play a scarce position that's in demand, I'm gonna probably enter the portal every time because I should be able to see what my worth is. Now, is
Well, I
that
mean,
good or bad
yeah,
for the
provided you think you can increase your worth. I think what the stories I hear and what happens far too often is the player gets a phone call and they get promises of XX dollars, and they don't get told like the fine details. Like, hey, if you're gonna get paid XX dollars, you got to be the starter. You got to, all these other things. You can't just be a third string or second string guy, or the numbers they throw out might be the first string guys and not the second or third string guys. And I think far too often guys get bad advice. And
I think
the numbers prove that out, right? I mean, there are a select few. When you're only talking about G5, there are a select few that have P4 talent, go play in the P4 and get that money. But I feel like so many guys, the numbers just bear it out. There's only so many spots available, and guys get left behind all the time.
the other thing that will be interesting to see is as these schools work through their NIL, understanding what kind of budget is actually there based off the players that are staying and do have that, because there is a set amount of money that like you will not go over. So that'll be interesting to see like when these schools, because that's another thing. It's like, based on the sheer volume of the guys that are in the portal, I can say that, there's no way all of them know exactly where they're going. They're hopeful they want this, or maybe they've heard from a couple different schools. But you don't know what that school really has to offer. Sometimes those schools maybe are still trying to figure out, working with their NIL collectives of like, hey, what do we have for budget wise? And, I think there are more schools than you realize that think that they have like that. If I'll say a quarterback where I think, oh, I'm in demand. I think there are a lot more schools than you would realize that don't have the budget to take in a quarterback. Whether you
Well, yeah, I
are
mean, quarterback, I would naturally
whether
assume
you
gets
are
paid the
deserving
most.
of the money or not, they might not have that for you. So it's kind of one of those things that's like, I am also curious to learn a little bit more. Maybe we can reach out, maybe talk to some collectives or something where we kind of understand. I've heard some schools use it as a way to re-up their NIL deals with their current school. So it's like, I don't have any like, I'm not going anywhere. It's just a contract thing that I'm doing with the NIL at my school. So
What do you mean? Like they enter the portal to try to get more money?
To like redo their deal or restructure it, whatever.
Yeah, you don't. I mean, what the stories I hear, like that's not necessary. I think oftentimes, I think what folks do is they shop their own deals, right? They just like happens in the real world with employees. They say, hey, I want a raise, and they go to this other place. Hey, and this is how much I'm making now. Can you pay me more? They're kind of shopping their own deals, if you will. mean, that's going to happen just like it happens in the real world at jobs and with employers and employees on a daily basis. I don't know that, in my personal opinion, unless your coach leaves, I don't know that going into the portal to try to increase the amount of money from your current school is the best idea.
Yeah, probably not.
I think you have that conversation before that.
Yeah.
And schools just take different approaches to how they handle NIL and such, right? It's a learning process for them. It's becoming a business, though. I mean, we see it. You see it with the coaching changes, right? Teams hiring a GM. We just heard. I just read a tweet earlier today where Bill Belichick's being considered for the North Carolina job, and he basically said, college football is like the NFL now. And folks are setting up their structure just like the NFL because it's a business. At some point, I feel like there's got to be some limits, though, right? I assume that's going to come through in the form of a CBA and maybe something like that down the road. But like the current model, I think is somewhat unsustainable in terms of how much you can pay. I mean, you hear the coaches talking about it nonstop now, right? Hey, if you want to keep these guys, you better start paying for it. Well, at some point, the fans are going to be like, yeah, no, we've given all we can give, and this is all we got, I don't know. Interesting times to be in. I know fans don't like the portal. As a fan, I don't necessarily like the portal. And basically you might have to rebuild a team every year, but I think we got to learn to live with it, right? It's not changing.
Yep.
So make the best of it and enjoy the moral of the story. Enjoy the players while you have them, because in many cases it's often just for 1 year.
All right. Well, let's get to some of those players that had a great conference championship week. Our G5 Hive Players of the Week 2024 Conference Championship. My offensive player of the week, none other than quarterback Tyler Huff. Tyler Huff went 11 of 15 for 176 yards and 2 touchdowns through the air. He added 23 carries for 167 yards and 1 touchdown on the ground. That's right. Tyler accounted for 343 yards and 3 touchdowns. Tyler got things going for the Gamecocks with an opening drive touchdown pass to Sean Brown. After his second passing touchdown to Cam Vaughn, the Gamecocks didn't look back. Jacksonville State poured it on Western Kentucky as they won 52-12 in the CUSA championship game. Congratulations to Tyler and the Gamecocks.
All right, my offensive player of the week for conference championships, quarterback Parker Navarro of the Ohio Bobcats. Parker played his best game on the biggest stage. He went 20 for 27, 235 yards, 2 touchdowns through the air, while adding 67 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground. The 25-yard touchdown pass from Parker to Coleman Owen on the opening possession of the third quarter was certainly a thing of beauty. Parker led the Bobcats to their first MAC championship since 1968. Congratulations, Parker. My defensive player of the week for conference championships, linebacker Andon Thomas, Army. Andon turned in a strong performance this week with 8 tackles, 4 solos, 1.5 tackles for loss, and a big interception to lead the Black Knights to the AAC championship. Andon's interception in the second quarter was huge as it led to a Black Knights touchdown to extend their lead 21-0. Congrats, Andon.
My defense player of the week, none other than safety Shea Oladipo, a.k.a. Boise Depot. Oladipo had a hell of a night for the Broncos, 21-7 win over the Rebels. Oladipo accounted for 10 tackles, 9 of which were solos. He had 1 sack and 2 tackles for losses. His sack came on UNLV's third drive of the game. Boise State had just scored a touchdown on Oladipo's sack, forced a 3-and-out, which helped with the momentum and, of course, the field position game. the play people are talking about is his 86-yard rundown of Kylan James to deny him a trip to the end zone. They later got in, but, took some time. But dude has a great motor. Congratulations, Shay, on the huge night. All right. What does the Swarm need to know? What are our news and notes, Justice?
So most of this is all college head coaching news. We will go over portal stuff at some point in the future. In January, once things settle down, we know who's going where, all that kind of stuff.
I will tell you, I feel like I am drinking from a fire hose with all this information, whether it's the coaching news, things getting ready for the bowl, players. It's amazing.
Yes, Dave. Yes. Yeah, it was Tyler Huff. That was Luke's offensive player of the week. You can go back and watch it on YouTube. It'll be there. And then we also take the players of the week's videos are from this and cut it up into YouTube shorts. So if you pay attention to our channel, probably sometime tomorrow or Wednesday, you'll see a YouTube short praising Tyler Huff.
We'll also do each day we'll do tweets too for our players.
Yeah, so we tweeted that out. We tweeted the players of the week out to earlier today, and it's a good point. So we started on Sunday with our all G5 Hive teams. Sunday we tweeted out the all freshman team, the offense, defense, kickers, punters, as well as our offensive and defensive freshman of the year. Today we went through the American Conference, so we sent out our all AAC team, offense, defense, kickers, and punters, and our offensive and defensive players of the year. Tomorrow is Conference USA. Wednesday will be the MAC. Thursday will be the Mountain West. Friday is the Sun Belt. And then it'll all culminate on Saturday. We tweet out our G5 Hive All-American G5 team. And we'll talk about them some point later in another show. But we wanted to go ahead and tweet those out. I think all the conferences have announced except for Conference USA. So ours, unless they've released it like tonight or early tomorrow morning, ours will actually release before the Conference USA releases theirs. The other conferences release theirs, I believe, over the weekend for most of them. I think is why I saw them. So anyway, stay tuned to our Twitter. If you're not, if you don't follow us on Twitter, on X, please follow us on X, and you'll see all the great G5 players from their conferences. All right, first some NIL news. The UMass Collective, the Midnight Ride, has ceased operations as UMass will move the collective in-house. I think this might be a move you see in other places, given all the recent changes with the legislation and such. I don't know that I'm necessarily in favor of it. I think like having it out of the house kind of gives a good separation, if you will, from the school and the collective. It just seems like a good way to set it up. But for whatever reason, UMass decided they wanted to bring it in house, and so the Midnight Ride has ceased operations. Now on to some coaching news. North Texas hires Sam Houston, defensive coordinator, Skylar Cassidy, as its new defensive coordinator. Sam Houston ranked number 1 in Conference USA in scoring defense. They were number 20 in the nation in total defense and 11th in pass defense. And they were a big reason for Sam Houston's success and turnaround this year. That Sam Houston defense was legit. So, definitely interested to see what kind of work Skylar can do at North Texas. Defense has been a problem for North Texas the last 2 years. But, based on his results there at Sam Houston, I think they got a good one. Ball State hires Mike Urimovich, a Butler head coach. He was with Butler for 3 seasons, leading them to a 23-11 record. Prior to that, he was offensive coordinator at Temple for 3 seasons. He is familiar with the MAC, as he has been at Northern Illinois 3 different times He was a grad assistant, a running back coach, and a special teams coordinator. UMass hires Rutgers defensive coordinator Joe Harayimasic to be their next head coach. He has roots in the Northeast. He was the head coach of Maine, where he went 20-15 and led them to a CAA championship in 2018. Fresno State hires USC assistant head coach Matt Entz as its next head coach. Before he was the assistant head coach at USC, he was the head coach at North Dakota State, where he went 60-10 and won 2 FCS national titles in his 5 years. Texas State offensive coordinator Mac Leftwich has been hired by Texas Tech to be their next offensive coordinator. New Mexico offensive coordinator Jason Beck has moved to Utah as their next offensive coordinator. And New Mexico head coach Bronco Mendenhall has been hired as the next head coach for Utah State. This season, Bronco did a really impressive job with New Mexico, leading them to 5 wins. They were on the verge of bowl eligibility, and given all the turnover and such that roster had, it was just a really impressive job. Bronco previously has been a head coach at UVA and BYU. Utah State has hired San Jose State assistant Kevin McGivern as their next offensive coordinator. He was the wide receiver coach and passing game coordinator for San Jose State this season. Colorado State defensive coordinator Freddie Banks has been fired. Linebacker coach Adam Pilipil will call the plays in the bowl game. Florida International has hired Duke running back coach Willie Simmons as their next head coach. Prior to Duke, Willie was the head coach at Florida A&M for 6 seasons, where he went 45-13. App State has hired South Carolina offensive coordinator Dow Logans as their new head coach. He was the South Carolina offensive coordinator for the last 2 seasons. Prior to that, he was an assistant at Arkansas and had several stops in the NFL. Ohio head coach Tim Albin has been hired as the next head coach of the Charlotte 49ers. He has been in Ohio since 2005, serving as the head coach for the last 4 seasons, leading them to a 33-19 record and winning the MAC championship this season. He did a remarkable job this year, taking a team that lost so much a year ago from the portal and graduation, and bringing home the MAC championship. Offensive coordinator Brian Smith has been named the interim coach for the bowl game, and he's also being considered for the permanent job.
That might be like my favorite hire, coaching hire, amongst everybody. I didn't see it coming, especially when it's kind of a weird. We're going to get to the next one, Charles Huff, but Tim Alp, you got 2 teams that win a conference championship from there.
and their coaches leave the next day.
But I do really like that move.
Southern Miss has hired Marshall head coach Charles Huff as their next head coach. It was probably the worst kept secret. It was all over social media last week. Matter of fact, and the new guy, fans were already tweeting who that was a week ago. But nonetheless, Southern Miss has hired Marshall head coach Charles Huff. He served as the Marshall head coach for the last 3 seasons with a 32-20 record and led them to the Sun Belt Championship this season. Associate head coach Telly Lockett will serve as the interim head coach for the bowl game. And Marshall has hired NC State defensive coordinator Tony Gibson as their next head coach. Gibson has been the NC State defensive coordinator since 2019. Prior to that, he was at West Virginia from 2013 through 2018. UNLV head coach Barry Odom has been hired by Purdue as their next head coach. Odom was 19-8 in 2 seasons at UNLV and led them to the Mountain West Championship game this season. Wide receiver coach Dell Alexander has been named the interim coach for the bowl game. Tulsa has named Trey Lamb as their next head coach. Trey was previously the head coach at East Tennessee State. He was 7-5 his only season there, but he turned them around from 3-8 in 2023. Previous to that, he led Gardner Webb to back-to-back FCS playoffs in 2022 and 2023. Central Michigan has named Army offensive line coach and co-offensive coordinator Matt Drenkel as their next head coach. And finally, San Diego State defensive coordinator Eric Schmidt has been named the head coach for North Dakota. So San Diego State will be looking for a new defensive coordinator this season.
All right, Justice, you got your breath? You good? If not, I'll go ahead. I'll take this. G5 in the AP top 25. Boise State moves up 2 spots to number 8 after beating UNLV for the second time and winning the Mountain West Conference Championship. Army moves up 5 spots to number 19 after beating Tulane and winning the American Athletic Conference Championship. UNLV, after their loss to Boise State, drops 5 spots to 24. Memphis, who was idle, they did not play this last week, remains at 25. Others receiving votes, you had Marshall at number 30 with 8 votes, Ohio with 33 with 5 votes, Tulane 33 with 5 votes, and Louisiana 36 with 1 vote. College football playoff rankings. Boise State moves up 1 spot to number 9, gets that number 3 seed and a first-round bye. The bye in the college footballs, they will play the winner of Penn State and SMU in the Fiesta Bowl. Army moves up 2 spots to number 22. UNLV drops 4 spots to 24. Memphis remains the same at 25. What are your thoughts about Boise State first round bye? I think the number is like $8 million for pretty much $4 million for this first round, and then $4 million then for the next round already. And I remember, does that go to the whole conference, or does that go to Boise?
It goes to both. I mean, it's some of it goes to Boise. Boise also, I think, gets like $3.5 million in travel assistance from the college football playoff, which goes directly to Boise. I think the committee got it right. I think there are some teams I don't think necessarily are the best 12, but at the end of the day, I think the committee did a decent job. I think that the hot topic was there's 2 hot topics, I guess. One is a lot of folks didn't think SMU should be in after losing the conference championship game on a 56-yard field goal. But to me, if they had done that, then the message they are sending is conference championship doesn't mean anything. SMU should have just not played, because then they would have been in. And I don't think they want to send that message. And so I think that was pretty strong. And then, for the people complaining about Alabama, well, don't get freaking blown out by Oklahoma, man. Like, you lost to Oklahoma. You have 3 losses. You lost to Oklahoma. You lost to Vanderbilt. Those aren't good losses. Oklahoma is a bad team. And it wasn't like it was a close game. Like, you got curb stomped. And so I don't necessarily think Bama should have been in. But I think all in all, the committee did a good job. The other complaint I've heard is folks are complaining that while they agree the conference championship should get in, conference champions should get in, that they shouldn't get a bye. And again, you can't do that, right? So let's just go. Let's think about this for a second. If let's say you're Oregon or Texas, and you're number 1 and 2, why would you play in the conference championship game then? If I'm because I'm gonna stay 1 and 2, I'm gonna get that bye. I don't want to play the conference championship and lose and not get a bye. And so, I think you have to reward those champions. Otherwise, again, conference championship doesn't mean anything, and teams will sit it out if you're just gonna give the buys to the top 4 teams. If I'm a top 4 team, what's the incentive for me to play?
And also, you talk about SMU getting in with even with the conference championship loss. So then it also, I think, gives that precedent to do what you have to do to make your conference championship game. So I think that also kind of puts a little bit, because it's not like they had a murderer's row of a schedule. I think it kind of tells you, like, play whatever you have to, like
And
you don't have to schedule really hard. Like, you don't have to schedule really hard games.
well, that's what people were saying at Alabama, but Alabama didn't lose. Like, they didn't lose their conference game; they lost their conference games. You lost to Oklahoma and Vanderbilt. You didn't lose to South Florida and Western Kentucky and Mercer. That's not who you lost to. I heard Shane Beamer say the same thing, but again, you know, he didn't lose to Old Dominion. He should have lost to Old Dominion. He didn't though. But they didn't lose their out of conference games. They lost their conference games, and I don't know. I think at the end of the day, the committee, for the most part, got it correct. I don't know what else I would have done differently. Happy to see Boise State get to play in the Fiesta Bowl. Fiesta Bowl has been very good to Boise State. I'd love to see SMU beat Penn State, and then it'd be SMU and Boise State. Even though SMU is not a G5 anymore, they were a G5 a year ago, and so I'd love to see that. I'd love to see Boise, make it. If I'm picking who I want to see in the finals, I want to see Boise State, Oregon, Part 2. That was a fantastic game the first time around. Oregon won by, I think, 37-34. And that's what I would love to see happen again. Right. I would love to see the G5 got 2 representatives, but unfortunately, if Army had won against Notre Dame, I think that would have happened. If Tulane had not lost against Memphis and then lost against Army, I think that could have happened as well. But other than those two, I don't know that the G5 really had another shot besides those two basically winning out.
All right. A little bit shorter of a show for us this week. Thank you all for tuning in all year long. But come back and join us next week as we discuss what happened in that Army-Navy game and the salutes to Veteran Bowl, as well as look forward to the next set of G5 Bowl games. And as always, we bring you up to date on all the latest news and happenings in the world of G5 college football. Again, if you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. We are 3 away from 500. Help us get to 500. If you're watching us on X, please give us a retweet, a like, and a follow. And if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, please subscribe. Leave those 5-star ratings and reviews. Thank you all for your support. Until next time, we are the G5 Hive.